Thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. You're taking your time, although I am feeding you lunch. And if I remember anything from law school, I went to the University of Nebraska. If there's anything I remember from law school, I went to anything that fed me lunch because I was super poor. But in Nebraska, they have this place called Valentino's. So real quick, I served my mission in Italy. Pizza's how we know God loves us. I've literally been to the best pizzeria in the world. Like, I make a habit of this sort of thing. So going to Nebraska and going to law school and eating at this place called Valentina's, which is essentially just putting tomato sauce on white bread. It was just awful, but I ate it anyway. I would just eat whatever anybody put in front of me in law school, which is why I gained probably 30 pounds. So don't do that. We'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, don't do that. Okay, so my name is Marco Brown, and we have some other people here with us. This is Clay. It's my number 2 at the office. Cody is our tech guy, and all-around genius in the office. Sophie, my executive assistant, then Katrina, one of the attorneys, and then we have a client, Mike. Thank you for coming, man. Okay, so I'm going to give you the purpose of this presentation right up front, and I hemmed and hawed a little bit about how to present this, but I'm just going to go straight at it. So the purpose is essentially to convince you that big law is a black hole that will eat your soul, and show you that family law is a viable alternative for your career after graduation. Okay? And then the second thing is to give you some tools to help you succeed no matter what you actually do. Okay. Right up front, I'm going to give you...
Right up front, we should probably... Are you supposed to be displaying?
No,
okay.
No, not really. Oh, I did send around a piece of paper with a pen so you can take notes. Now, I know that this is like a freaky proposition for all of you here, that you take notes by hand in law school. But the reason for this is when you pick up a pen and write things down, you remember it better. And it's fine if you take notes in class in law school because you're never going to use that stuff again after the test anyway, so don't worry about that. But this is actually important, what I'm going to tell you. So, take handwritten notes. I'm going to give you 3 tips right up front to make law school better for you. At least these are 3 things that I really wish I had done in law school that would have made my law school experience much, much better. And they have absolutely nothing to do with studying or anything like that. So let's get that out of the way. The first thing is sleep 8 hours per night. Okay? Anything less than 8 hours, really anything less than 7 is very, very bad on human beings, but anything less than 8 is just not optimal. If you want a book that will scare you straight when it comes to sleep and make you want to get 8 hours a night for the rest of your life, it's Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. It's one of the best books I've read in the last 10 years. I try to read it like every year. It's great. But sleep 8 hours every night. Everything is better. Like that, sleep is the foundation for all physical, mental, spiritual health. So get 8 hours of sleep. And again, these are things I wish I had done in law school, okay? The next is work out an hour every day. Okay, this sounds crazy to you right now, I understand that. But again, I put on 30 pounds in law school because I was sitting on my rear end in Nebraska in the winter. And then after law school, I had to lose all that weight because my wife can only put up with that for so long. So it's better that you just don't put it on. And everything works better when your body works better. So I actually timed this out. Okay, there's a Vasa down the street here. It is 3 minutes away in a car, and it's 16 minutes by foot, okay? Just go to the Vasa or whatever. Like, I kind of wish they had a workout facility here in the building, but they don't. So just go to the Vasa. And if you want to save some time in this, don't change your clothes. Just go lift or do whatever it is you're going to do in the clothes that you have on right now. It's okay. No one's going to care. You're not an Instagram model. It doesn't matter. So, okay. And then the third thing is go out on, I wish I had gone out with my wife Demery on a date every week, okay? Some of you aren't married, okay, fine. But if you are, you have a significant other, go out every week, okay? One of the memories that my wife and I have from law school that we remember to this day is I went out to a movie with her. We went out to an Angelina Jolie movie. It was Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. Terrible little movie, didn't really matter. The point was I took out 2.5 hours from Friday night and we went out, and then I literally went back and studied at the library until like it closed at like 11 or something like that. But we still remember that date. You know what I don't remember? Any of the stuff surrounding that date. I don't remember anything I studied. I don't remember any of that kind of stuff, okay? It was the date that was the important thing, and my wife is still around and law school isn't, okay? So go out, okay? So those are three things real quick, okay. Let's do, okay, now we're gonna get to the meat of this. Okay. First thing we're going to talk about is why big law sucks, okay? And our guide here is going to be this book, Big Law Confidential. Now, if at the end of this, you really, really want to do big law, I actually suggest you buy this book and read it, because there are tons of really interesting aspects of it that help you if you want to succeed in big law. Like he goes through and tells you why it's absolutely awful and why you shouldn't do it. And then he says, but if you're going to do it, here's how you succeed in it anyway, okay? So if you really want to succeed in it, this is a great, great book for that, okay? All right, so here are some of the highlights from Big Law Confidential, okay? There's a quoted Forbes survey in there that the #1 worst and unhappiest job in the United States is associates in big law firms. And I'm talking AmLaw 100, AmLaw 50, okay? Big law pays, 200,000+. Actually don't know what the top is anymore, but I think it's in the 200 plus range. And the reason they do that is because they require loads of soul crushing work. Okay, so I grew up in a small village in Alaska. It's called Cold Bay, 85 people out in the middle of nowhere. I'll bring it up actually. Okay, now let's zoom out. Let's zoom in, let's zoom out here. Okay, there we go. There we go, right in there, that's Cold Bay, okay. If you wanted a gallon of milk in Cold Bay, it was like $10 back in the 80s, right? Like it was tremendously expensive to live out there. And you got huge increases in pay because it was a village on the Aleutian Peninsula that had 85 people, okay? This is the same thing they have to do to get you to go into big law, is pay you exorbitant amounts of money to do it, okay? So #3 here, the author suggests that if you take personal time, like going to the gym, that you put that item on your calendar, but you're vague about what it actually is. Because if you don't have it on your calendar, then some partner may think that you're not doing something productive, like billing, and they'll think that you're a loser, okay? But you can't be too specific about it, because if you put on there that you're doing something like normal human beings do, go to the gym, then they will also think you're a loser, and you will probably not make partner. This is the world that they have chosen to live in, okay? 12-hour days are expected. Everybody works on vacations. All-nighters happen. I'll have a little story about that in a second. And then the good, bad, and the ugly: time pressure, extremely long hours, lack of feedback. So feedback in these places is, this sucks, redo it. Like that's feedback. Not always, but very often. Toxic culture, and then jerks, partners who throw staplers and things like that. And then the end of the chapter, this is so great. As one former big law associate put it, I have never met in my life anyone who regretted their decision to quit their job as a big law associate. Okay. All right, so that's what you're looking at. Now, a couple personal stories. I was at a Federalist Society convention in New York, and I was sitting next to this guy named John. John was from Salt Lake, and he was a very, very nice guy going to Columbia. I think he was a 2L at that point. He had a very cute wife who was with him, and then they had 2 little girls. Showed me the pictures, they were beautiful. And his plan was to, because I asked him, he wanted to go work at Kurt & McConkie here in Salt Lake. I said, so how are you going to get back there? He said, well, I'm going to stay in New York for 5 or 6 years and pay off loans because Columbia is really expensive. And we live in an apartment, in a 2-room apartment next to Columbia, and it costs $3,500 a month. And this was at least 10, 14 years ago, something like that. I mean, it was a long time ago. Okay, so that was his plan, just to get back to Salt Lake City so he could work at a firm that he enjoyed. Okay, that's 5 to 6 years of essentially indentured servitude in one of these places. Because he didn't want to work at this place, he just had to do it. So that's kind of what you're looking at. And then I remember I worked a case, the one law firm job I've ever had, I worked a case with, I think, Jones Day in New York, and they were counsel out there, and they would answer emails at like 3 o'clock in the morning. We would get voicemails from them at 4 a.m. Like it was 24/7. The associates, there was a shift of associates that worked from 10 o'clock at night till 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that. Like, this is the reality of it. Okay, so why does anybody put themselves through this? Partnership. That's why they do it. It's honor. So human beings, Aquinas talks about this. There are really 4 things that human beings that motivate human beings: money, power, fame, pleasure. Okay, there is no pleasure in this thing, so we can take that away. Money, sort of. It's really the fame of it all, the honor of being a partner. It takes about 9 to 10 years to make a partner. This place I went and looked this up. Just keeps getting longer. Okay, so some they've redone some of it, so it's like 7.5 years or 8 years, but most of them now are on the 9 to 10 year range. Okay, and then it can be super lucrative. The income is in the millions, but you might think to yourself, wow, after a decade of this, I can take my foot off the gas. No, you absolutely cannot. Essentially, what you get when you make partner at these places is you get to do more work at the same level. So it's like winning a pie eating contest, and what you get for winning the contest is to eat more pie forever, right? So that's the thing. If you really want to do this, okay, love the work that you do, because the work is the thing. And if you dig that work, then go into big law and do that work for the rest of your life, okay? That's it. If it's for anything else, please don't, okay? And after you make partner, they want you to rainmake, they want you in the kind of leadership positions and whatnot, so time never ever goes down, okay? So it's essentially a lottery, and lotteries are great if you want to be entertained. They're not viable alternatives or optimal life plans, really. It's just not the greatest idea. But again, if you want this sort of thing, then by all means, go for it, buy Big Law Confidential, and go to it. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you now, I'm going to turn this off real quick, is what family law has to offer instead of this. Okay, and to begin here, because I want you to get out of here and you've suffered through me talking enough, I want Mike to talk about his experience with us and the impact of what we did for him on his family. So you want to come up?
Just the disclosures, okay, this is not a paid actor.
No, I paid them. That's the difference. So,
Yes, you did.
yeah, lots. So I don't like podiums. I'm just gonna stand over here if that's okay. So just a little bit of background about me. I was married for 17 years before I separated from my now ex. And I moved out of the house, tried to keep the peace that way. That did not work. It just continued to get worse and worse after I had separated. And she had told me previously that if I were to pursue divorce, she was going to make it as hard as possible. And really just got me and take the kids, which we have 4 kids together, take as much money as she could. I mean, right to my eyes, she had told me this. And I knew, we're from Utah County. I knew that she had already talked to some of the top family law lawyers down here. And I shared this with Clay before, that I needed to get out of Utah County for lawyers. So I kind of searched around Salt Lake County because I figured, there's some good lawyers up there, and I picked a few and had phone calls, and it really kind of came down to 2, and then I met Marco. I came in and had a conversation with him, and just he won me over as a client, his professionalism, the way he was the only lawyer to really tell me flat out what to expect out of the case. And I've heard since then that most family law lawyers can tell within 15, 20 minutes of meeting a client, they can generally tell how the case is going to go. Correct me if I'm wrong, for the most part. Mine was a little wild here and there, but the outcome,
To be fair, you did say this is going to be the most difficult thing ever, and we're like,
Yeah.
everybody tells us that. One of us was right.
Yeah, that's right. So, it was a 2.5-year divorce. It was a long, long divorce, lots of delays. She went through a number of attorneys, which caused multiple delays. We tried mediation twice, failed both times. 3 custody evaluations, depending on how you look at it. It was a mess to get through. But I will say, having Clay by my side, who ended up being my actual attorney through the whole process, it got me where I wanted, but also he was there whenever I felt like just giving up and saying, this isn't worth it. Just the mental stress that I had been going through was too much. And I knew that Clay, whenever I emailed him, he was there. He was able to, as long as he wasn't in some mediation with another client, within minutes he would often call me and we would talk through whatever craziness was going on that day. And he was able to talk me off a ledge of just giving up custody of my kids, giving up, the money, whatever she was after for the day. So, as I understand it, this presentation is don't go to some big law firm and don't sell your soul. I will say, if you want a direct impact on people, where you have the chance to work one-on-one with either side, husband or wife, this is it. Clay had me all the way through. He carried me through this. So,
Yeah.
that's basically.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
Great. No, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. So Mike has one of those special cases that has a nickname at the office, and
Yes.
like when we say the nickname, we know exactly what went on, and we talk about it unfortunately quite a lot. So, but thank you very much. If you need to take off, you certainly can.
I'll stay.
Okay, great.
It was Dan's mom.
Dan's mom.
When I got his wife's financial disclosures, and they said that they spent $3,000 a month on dance, I just
For
one kid, I was just like, that's like, sometimes people will inflate these expenses because it's like, oh, we just put whatever we want. They'll get alimony and child support.
No,
Really not
there's
that.
no inflation here.
But I was like, what are they trying to pull? And Mike's like, no, that she, if it were up to her, she would spend that much.
Didn't she want to cash out the college accounts or something to pay for dance too?
No, she sold a bunch of like the
Stock.
and
That's what it
retirement
was.
accounts
Yeah.
to pay for dance while it was going on.
That's right.
And
That's
again,
what it was.
we're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars so that way this one kid could get a scholarship.
which he has no interest in going to college.
Yeah. I don't know why we didn't just put all that money into 529 plans. But again, I'm a heartless monster, and I was very mean to bring up those alternatives.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what family law has to offer. And Mike is the prime example of it. It's service, okay? You can go to large law firms and do, M&A deals and those sorts of things. And again, if that's your jam, great, go do that, okay? But you are not going to have the kind of impact that you do on somebody's life on an individual basis that you have with in situations like family law, where you're helping a guy like Mike. It just doesn't happen. There are a few practice areas where you can do this. Family law isn't the only one. Criminal, you can also have a real impact on real human beings. If you want to go, you could work for Division of Child and Family Services, a lawyer, these sorts of things, and help. Juvie law. These, yes. You will get in there and you will do that. Those all have, I think, severe drawbacks that family law doesn't particularly have, but the service aspect is really where it is in family law. And this is not easy, though. Mike will tell you that you were compromised when you came in. All of our clients are compromised, and we have to deal with that. And it can be really emotionally and spiritually draining. So keep that in mind, but again, there's no place that you can make a bigger impact in real people's lives than here. And what you don't get here is the sense of how it impacted his kids. But that's the most important thing. I always tell this to my attorneys. We have an ethical obligation to our clients to serve them and to do really well for them, but we're really here to not mess up kids, or to mess up kids as little as humanly possible, because divorce messes up kids kind of no matter what. But we're here to lower the temperature and get people through the process as quickly as we can, with the least amount of fighting as we can, and really not mess up their kids. Now, in this sense, that Mike's case is a really bad one because it took a long time. It cost a lot of money, but that was not. I can tell you that was not us. That was not Clay. He wasn't up in the temperature.
To be clear, it was not.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was her and
The other lawyers.
There's a judicial finding that it was not me.
But it was not. That's right. Okay. So that's the number one, service. Number two is time and money. So again, you can go to large law firms. They will work you to the bone and they'll pay you a lot. And you can drive around in a BMW 7 Series and then get divorced. And if that's your game, and go for that. But I don't dig that. But I'm going to talk about the numbers when it comes to our law firm, when it comes to money, and then we'll talk about time. So billable requirement at our firm is 1,600 hours a year. It comes up to approximately, figure 20 to 21 working days in a month, 6.7 hours per day billed. Okay. I always tell my attorneys to bill 7.2, because if they bill 7.2 every day instead of 6.7, then they get 6 weeks of vacation built in. Okay. Not many of them actually do that, but that's the way it should. I think it should go. But it's 6.7 a day. You can do that in our law firm, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because Clay is with the attorneys much more than I am now. I think people get that done in 8 to 8.5 hours a day. Am I making stuff up?
No.
Okay. So 8 to 8.5 hours a day, Monday through Friday, gets you through what you need to do for your clients to serve them really, really well. And the way we do this is we have about 30 clients at a time. I think we're a little above that right now because we're trying to bring on a new attorney, and we always get a little high at this point. But 30 clients. It's not bad. When I was doing this on my own, because I started this law firm with absolutely zero, I had 112 active case files, and let me tell you, it was just awful. You're shaking your head back there, yeah. You know how this works when it's just you, right? Yeah, exactly. So thankfully, don't do that anymore. Okay, but you can get this done in Monday through Friday and have a normal life. I don't like my attorneys answering emails after 5:30 when they leave the office. I don't want them giving out their number to clients so the clients can text them. Yeah, Clay gets to break those, but I don't really like my people coming in on Saturdays or working on weekends. Like, I've really tried to create a place where we don't have to do that, where people can come in and lawyer and then go home and be with their families, okay? Because I just don't want to be the captain of some sinking ship where everybody's snorting coke and committing suicide. So the suicide thing, I'm like, that's real. I'm not joking about that. After I posted a little bit of this presentation on LinkedIn, and I got messages from people. One guy in particular said, he had graduated, he went into big law and had some friends who did it. He got out pretty quickly, but the friends stayed in. And he said within 3 years, 2 of them had killed themselves, and then 1 had died under suspicious circumstances. Okay, so it is serious. Like, the mental health toll that it takes is really, really serious. Okay, so we rarely work weekends. Really, when you do work weekends, you have a trial on Monday. Of course you're going to work weekends. This is the nature of the beast. But that doesn't happen very often, because the other nice thing about family law is you get to fix your calendar. So if you don't want to have trial on Monday, it doesn't really happen that often. I mean, sometimes you have to, but it isn't really. Fridays, we never have hearings at all, and we just made that a firm policy that we just wouldn't have hearings on Friday. And then the commissioners and the judges, they just know that's our policy, and then we don't have hearings on Fridays. Okay, so you can do that sort of thing in family law, whereas you can't in most other areas of law. Okay.
Put the display on here.
Yeah, no, I'll talk about it. Sorry. So let me get down to the money part of this. So our attorneys make $158 per year, and then with the benefits, it usually comes out to about $175. And they can make more than that if they want to. There are incentives for sales and a few things like that. So, they make over $200,000 if they want to do that. Attorneys from 1 to 3 years make less because they just don't know as much and they're as good. But I looked at the numbers; it was still about $133 coming out of law school is what we're paying the new attorneys, Andrew and Ann Grayson. Yeah. Okay. And on the time part, we talked about it a little bit, but we have Katrina here, and I wanted Katrina to kind of talk to you about the time. And I'm just going to say this: she is here because she is pregnant and very, very pregnant. And she is going to come back and after a couple months and continue to work. So I just wanted her to talk to you about the ability to do that and have a family.
So I actually found out that I was pregnant 3 days after I started at Brown Family Law.
She did not tell me 3 days after she started.
Yeah, no, I kind of kept that to myself, partly because I was a little nervous to tell the law firm that I was working at, because usually law firms are not the most family-friendly or maternity leave conducive places to work. So I went in and I told Clay that I was pregnant, and his reaction was a very...
Your husband?
No. But a very genuine congratulations. We're so happy for you. And that is how the whole firm, and when Marco came in and he congratulated me as well, and everything that Marco's been saying about it's a regular work day. I mean, I go home, I have dinner with my husband, I play with the dog. I've been very sick, but through this whole pregnancy, but it's been standard work days. It's not crazy hours, and it is such a team environment in the firm that anytime you need to say, hey, I've never done a XYZ before, you can walk into anyone's office and they'll say, hey, go look at the Dance Mom case, or for one of the that motion, and so it's been an amazing experience to be in a firm that is actually excited about building a strong family for each of our attorneys, as well as really helping other families as they're navigating this process of divorce and custody. But anything else I can...
You have to deal with lots of fires on weekends, or emergencies.
No, hardly ever. I mean, every once in a while there's something, but usually, with having the 30 cases, I mean, I know all of my clients, I know their kids' names, which I really think having that space to work with, people that I really get to know, elevates the quality of service that I'm able to give to each one of my clients. But yeah, not really very many fires to put out, or
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep.
Appreciate it. All right, so I gotta say, this is not a pitch for our law firm. It's not a pitch for our law firm, but it's not a pitch for our firm. This is an example of what you can actually do in family law, right? These big places do not come in here and tell you stories like this, right? They don't bring associates to talk about this sort of thing. They don't, because it just doesn't exist, but it does exist in family law. Okay, so that's the time component of it. High demand and recession proof is the next one. So unfortunately, there's always demand for what we do. I actually wish that I didn't have a job. I disdain divorce. I kind of loathe it, to be honest. Sometimes it's necessary, cool, great. A lot of times it's simply not, but I'm the coroner, not the murderer, and I'm really good at what I do, so I do what I do. But it's unfortunately high in demand, and it's almost completely recession-proof. So during the Great Recession, I think the rate went down like 4 to 5% maybe, and then ballooned back up after the Great Recession when people had money. So it's almost completely recession-proof. Okay. You can live and work anywhere. So if you work in big law, you are going to work in Chicago, LA, Miami, New York, Philadelphia, DC, somewhere in there. Now, what do all these places have in common? Millions and millions of other humans around in very close quarters, okay? They're large metropolitan areas. The nice thing about family law is that you can go anywhere in the United States and there is demand for it and you can do it anywhere. So if you want to live in rural Arkansas, literally, like I know guys and gals in rural Arkansas who do this, and they love it. And then I know people who live in Naples, Florida, and they do it. Like you can do it anywhere in the United States, super easy. You get to pick where you live. Family law is litigation. You go to lots of other places and they say they litigate, and you see the inside of a courtroom like once every 6 months or something. That's not family law. If you want to litigate, this is actual litigation. We're in mediation constantly. We go to court relatively regularly, and we're not even super litigious as a firm, but we go pretty regularly. If you want to be litigious, you can go all the time. You can you can go 4 or 5 times a week to court if you really want to. So it is true litigation, though. I've done a number of trials. I think the max I ever did was 7 or 8 trials in a year, which is almost unheard of in litigation. Unless you're in so. And then kind of last thing is the stories are great, okay? In the sense that, look, you have to be slightly disordered to really, really like this, okay? Because the stories are kind of like watching a train wreck, but you know, train wrecks are kind of fun to watch. And like, they kind of are. I hope that doesn't make you think any less of me, right? Okay. But you have to sort of like this. You have to sort of like the drama in order to do what we do. Okay. And if you do, then the stories are fantastic. Just don't tell them to your spouse because they don't need to be burdened by that sort of thing. Do you talk to your husband about it? No. Okay. I haven't told my wife on a case for like 12 years probably because she doesn't want me burdening with that. Do you do it with Morgan?
She's probably desensitized to the normal kind of stuff, so it has to be really, really juicy. And if there's any sort of like, but here's the legal component that's interesting, it's just like, I'm out. You know?
And of course, we say these in ways that does not break privilege. So we're just making stuff up. Okay. All right. So what's the downside of family law? One is emotions. Okay, if you cannot handle other people's strong emotions, strong negative emotions particularly, don't do this thing. Okay, just be a patent attorney or something, right? Then you literally don't deal with other human beings when you're doing that. But emotions are kind of the bread and butter of what we do. Okay, so that's either, and these are downsides, but they can also be upsides because I like this. I like dealing with people's emotions. I'm good at it. And it's one of the things that I really enjoy about family law, but it can be downsides for some people. Okay, the next one is moral ambiguity. I can say that I have, and Clay, I'm sure you're the same, I have represented clients that have done every manner of criminal activity humanly conceivable, and that have had every mental health issue in the DSM-5. I kid you not. I've represented somebody who had DSM-5, like every one of them, okay? And sometimes my client is not a great dude. But the problem is the lady on the other side's even worse. So it's tough. It's morally ambiguous, and you have to be able to deal with that sort of thing. And we actually had an attorney leave not too long ago. We loved her. She was utterly fantastic. But she left because it was just too hard morally. Like she liked the fact, she went back to being a prosecutor because at that point she just got to pick and choose the winners, right? And there was no moral ambiguity for her. But that was literally the issue, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So you have to be able to deal with that. And some people can, and some people can't. Okay. The constant client interaction, in family law, you will interface with your clients constantly. So we call every client every Friday, okay? And that's in addition to talking to them throughout the week. It's just one of the things that we do. And then every Wednesday, the paralegal texts them. So we have constant systemic communication with our clients. And again, I like that sort of stuff. I think it's cool. I wouldn't want to ever do anything in the law that didn't require that sort of thing. But a lot of people, like, they can't handle talking to other people all the time. And if you can't, again, don't do this. Right, don't do this. The next one is lots of clients with no money. Okay, so this is a severe downside, very high demand for our services, and lots of people that don't have a lot of cash. Okay, so if you are a bleeding heart that just cannot force people to pay them a lot of money, don't do this. People will eat you up. Your clients will eat you up unless you get paid. Okay, because I let myself do that for probably 5 or 6 years, and I was in a very, very bad way, emotionally, spiritually, with money, everything. And then I figured out how to get paid, and things changed a lot. So, unless you got a backbone, unless you're going to get paid, don't do this thing. Okay. And then there's a fairly low barrier for entry for attorneys because there is high demand, which means that kind of any attorney can do at least some divorce and family law stuff. So I think the average attorney, I know the numbers one year, I think the average attorney does 10 family law cases in a year. Okay, which means that like just a whole bunch of attorneys are doing a little bit. Now we do it. That's all we do. Like that's 10 is cute that we do that in like a week, But most of them just don't do that. So they don't become really good at family law, which means that some of the people you go up against are not super knowledgeable and they're dorks. Okay, and that's a bad combo for an opposing counsel. It really, really is. When they're stupid and they're jerky, like that's a really bad combo. And that's about 10%, I would say, of our colleagues. The other 90% know what they're doing, are really diligent about it, are great, but you're gonna get 10% and they're gonna make your life absolutely horrible unless you figure out how to deal with that, okay? So that's a downside. All right, so we're at 46, okay. That is my pitch, okay? I ended on the downside, which you're not supposed to do, but I just wanna be realistic about this with everybody. Family law really is just a beautiful area to practice in if you got the right constitution for it, okay? There's a lot of very good money to be made and a lot of people to help, and I absolutely adore it. So hopefully that gives you an idea of why it's a viable alternative for your careers after law school. Okay, now, about 15 minutes left. You can take off if you want to, but I wanted to do a little bit of Q&A, talk about a little bit of business of law and vision, because this is the kind of stuff I do. If you have any questions at all, just stop me and I'll answer anything. Yep.
So one of the things that kind of scares me about like family law and maybe smaller firms is collection.
Yes.
Because that's like, it's your entire livelihood.
Yep.
So how do you, I know I've heard of some firms having like 70, 50, what do you do to make sure you get paid? Because I think there's nothing worse than working in a
Boy, now you're speaking my language, my friend.
I do want to say though that you're going to have that problem anywhere. Like regardless of how, like if you are not profitable, like if whatever big law, all this stuff, if you're not profitable, they will cut you. And I say that from experience.
Yeah. So this is kind of a systemic problem within the law. But the question is, how do you keep it from kind of messing your life up? Okay, so when the first 5-6 years that I did this, I collected 50 cents on the dollar maybe. And then I had an experience in 2015, which taught me that if I didn't change everything, like I was gonna die when I was about 60 or 65. Okay, and I didn't want to do that because, I think God wants me on the earth a little bit longer than that. So I'm like, okay, let's change some things up. So the first thing I did was figure out how to get paid. And so I'll talk to you about my 9 steps here quickly, but there is also a presentation I gave. One second. Okay. This right here. So just go to YouTube and put that in there and you can watch that. and it will explain exactly how you get paid 100%. Okay? Because this is my big thing. So I gave this talk at a national conference in St. Louis a few years ago. I talk about this all the time because getting paid literally changed my life and saved it. So, okay. All right, but I'm going to take you through really quickly the steps. So these are the 9 steps here. You can write them down if you want. 1, you have to change your mind about money and about getting paid. So one of the unfortunate things about law school and about bar associations is they teach you to give away your stuff for free instead of getting paid, especially bar associations. This is like, I swear all they do all day long is tell you to do pro bono work instead of like feeding your babies, which I disdain, but you gotta change your mindset. So if you buy into that, you're never getting paid, okay? So change your mind about getting paid, about wealth, whatever you need to do, okay? Then the second thing here is bill in real time. Okay? Billing in real time is a skill. And I'm talking about sitting down, you do a task, and then you bill for the task, and then you move on to the next task. Okay? It is literally a skill that you have to learn. And when you go and clerk during the summers or work for whoever, ask them to teach you how to bill in real time and force you. You want them to force you to learn how to bill in real time. Because if you know this, when you become an associate somewhere, then you never have a problem figuring out how to bill in real time, okay? Like there's no uptake there because you already learned it. And that will save you so much headache and so much heartache as an associate. Okay, then the next is invoice regularly, at least once per month. Hopefully your, whatever firm you're working for does this. If they do not, get out, just leave, like go find some other place, because if you don't bill at least once a month, your firm is probably not long for the world. So just go work somewhere else. Okay. The next one, number 4, is don't chase money. Chasing money is doing stuff that is outside your wheelhouse. Okay? So as an associate, you're kind of forced to do a whole bunch of different things. Okay, that's fine. But when you get a choice, when you get to the point in your career where you have a choice and you're good at something, just do that thing. That's it. We'll talk about specialization in a second, but just do that thing. That's all you do. Okay? If you take cases that are outside your wheelhouse because you need some cash, or you think you need some cash, bad stuff is going to happen very, very quickly. Okay? Or you like lower your price or take a lower retainer or whatever it is because you need the cash, you're gone. Like it's not gonna work well for you at all. Okay? So don't chase money. Always have money in trust. So you have a trust account and you keep money in a trust account. What most attorneys do is they get a trust payment, so say it's $5,000. Then they run through that money and they get to 0. And then they get below 0, and then they get it back up to 0. So they go from like negative to 0, negative to 0, negative to 0. That's terrible. You become a bank at that point. And you don't want to be a bank. You want to be a lawyer, so don't do that. And no one likes their banker, right? I mean, people already don't like their lawyers, but don't be a lawyer and a banker at the same time, okay? So always have money in your trust. If your client doesn't pay you and keep money in trust at the level that you set, then stop work. Okay? Now you can't materially prejudice your client by stopping work, but you can figure out how to make it function. Okay? You figure out how to kind of space your cases so when payments are made, you're not materially prejudicing them when you stop work. There are ways you can figure this out. But the thing is, don't do work if they won't pay you. Now, you're thinking, this sounds stupid, Marco. Why would anybody do that? Exactly right. And yet 90%, I guarantee you 90% of attorneys will do it. Like this is one of the biggest problems that we still have in our firm is our attorneys will do this, and I'm me, and I talk about this stuff all the time, and they still do work. Like we literally went through the options to make it impossible for them to bill on their case, so they didn't do work on a case. Like we were going to remove their ability to bill in Clio. And
to enter the time.
Like literally enter the time. So they didn't work on the case. Now we ended up not doing that because there were other systemic problems, but attorneys they're just addicted to doing work on cases they don't get paid for, and it's just insane. So, okay, don't do that. The next is specialize. So do one thing and do it really, really well and don't do anything else. Okay? Specialists get paid 10 times what non-specialists get paid. Okay? And they don't work as hard.
Because when you specialize in something, you become extraordinarily good at it, and then you come up with all these mental heuristics, you don't have to think nearly as much to solve a problem, okay? So it saves humongous amounts of time, you're way better at it, the client gets a better result, you don't spend as much time, you get more time with your family, you get more money, everybody wins. I don't know why this is tough, but when I tell this to other attorneys, they flip out of their minds. Okay, the next one is, well, you don't have this, but when you get here, fire your worst client. Your worst client usually accounts for like 50% of your problems in a given time, okay? Like your 5 worst clients will constitute 90% of your problems, okay? So just learn how to fire clients, okay? And if you're in firms where they literally will not fire the worst clients, again, you think about going somewhere else, because they're gonna make you a slave to that worst client. And they're gonna make your paralegal a slave to that worst client. Because if you think you hate your worst client, you get a paralegal, your paralegal hates that worst client 5 times more than you do, okay? So, yeah. And then the last thing here is make you, your family, and your team your first priority, and clients are second, okay? A lot of places, they'll say clients come first. Like, great, I did that for years and it almost ruined me, almost killed me, okay? And ruined my family. Don't do that. Put yourself first, your family first, and your team first, and then your clients. And that is sustainable. You can do that for 40 years as an attorney. You put your clients first and you second, you're not gonna do that for 40 years. Like, you're gonna burn out, and it's gonna be absolutely terrible. So, that's how you get paid. Okay. A couple other things right at the end here. Learn how to sell and close, okay? So I'm gonna give you actually we have a thing for it. You wanna do that right now? Now you may think that law firms want you for your brain. They don't. They want you for your brain's ability to turn knowledge into money, okay? That's what they want you for. And usually that happens through billing, okay? But it can happen other ways too. If you can sit down with a potential client and convert that client into a paying client, that is amazingly valuable in a law firm. So if you're good at what you do and you can convert, you can sell and close clients, like you can write your own ticket, okay? So this is our guide, this is our sales guide, and how we run our consultations, kind of everything else, how we overcome objections, is how we do it in our law firm. Other than this, which I think is really well put together, this book right here, The Closer's Survival Guide by Grant Cardone, is the best book for this. This is the single best business book I've ever read in my entire life. I've read it 24 times. Okay, so pick it up, learn how to sell, learn how to close. Okay, and then the last thing is vision. If you don't have a vision, like a really well-developed vision for your life after law school, you will default to somebody else's vision. And what that means is that you will default to the vision, usually it means you will default to the vision of the people in the law school you go to, okay? So the law professors and the other administrators that are in the law school. And sometimes that works, but I gotta tell you, there are institutional incentives for them to tell you to go places that aren't really the best situations for you and your family. So pick your own vision, okay? A couple different exercises, really quick, a couple different exercises for this. There's one called the 300 list. This comes from Steve Harvey. It's 300 things that you either want or you want to have or you want to do, okay? You sit down and you literally just list all those 300 things and you think big. This really gets you into yourself, what your priorities are, what you really want to accomplish in your life. You learn a lot about yourself doing this. So, but this takes an extraordinarily amount of time. The other one that doesn't take nearly as much time, but is really good, is the Future Authoring Program, or self-authoring program from Jordan Peterson. Costs like $30, I think. Go through, I think it takes 90 minutes or something, and it's quite effective for helping you. What you do is you figure out what you're running from and then what you're running to, and that helps a lot. So those are 2 visioning exercises for you. And I'm done. Thank you.